have rushed to U.S.-backed aid distribution center in southern Gaza, desperate to receive food packages after weeks of blockade, which was imposed by Israel. Crowds flocked to the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation site in Rafah, overwhelming organizers and prompting temporary withdrawal of staffs. Let's listen in to what some of the Gazans had to say with respect to the aid deliveries.
أنا جاي من جوا من الزحمة لأخذت طحين بس كان عندي أمل إن أخذ طحين والأمل بإيدين الله عز وجل عند الله ولكن ما أخذتش من الزحمة
عملية التسليم كانت نظام بعدين ما نكمل من الناس خلوا الناس كلها تهجم هجوم عليها وتاخذ
The foundation said around 8,000 food boxes equal to 462,000 meals were distributed, adding that its team fell back at one point to let people collect aid safely. The Israeli military said that warning shots were fired outside the distribution zone, but no aerial fire was directed at the center. Control over the situation later was restored. Meanwhile, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu admitted there was a loss of control momentarily, but said order was re-established. Let's take a listen.
Well, we tried the first one. We're going to put many today. There was some loss of control momentarily. Happily, we brought it back under control. We're going to put many more of these. And the idea is basically to take away the humanitarian looting as a tool of war of Hamas, to give it to the population, eventually to have a sterile zone in the south of Gaza where the entire population can move for its own protection. We made a decision. Let us put the aid in such a way that we separate the aid from Hamas. We give it to the civilians and not to the terrorists. And we worked out a plan with our American friends to have controlled distribution sites where an American company would distribute the food to Palestinians.
In a related development, the United Nations has called the scenes heartbreaking. The UN also said Israel is still allowing aid deliveries under extremely difficult circumstances and with a lot of obstacles. Let's listen in.
The situation in Gaza, and I can tell you that we have been watching the video coming out of Gaza around one of the distribution points set up by the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, and frankly, these these images are heartbreaking to say the least.
Separately, the United States dismissed criticism of the aid operation as the height of hypocrisy, stressing that food is moving into Gaza at a massive scale. Let's listen in.
From the very beginning, we had I'd mentioned and we had heard about the resistance by certain NGOs and the UN. It is unfortunate because the issue here is getting aid to Gazans. And then suddenly it moves into complaints about style or the nature of who's doing it, or elements of administration and being opposed to getting food and aid, as we've demonstrated here, is happening and will continue to happen because someone might feel left out.
The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, the one distributing aid in Israel, has blamed Hamas for causing delays in civilian access to aid, an allegation Hamas denied. Now we have Daniel Wagner, CEO of Country Risk Solution, joining us from Portland, United States. Thank you for joining us today. Daniel, what does this scene tell us about the current humanitarian situation in Gaza?
Well, it's intolerable on many levels, and many people agree on that, even many Israelis. In fact, the sentiment in Israel these days is that they basically just want this war to be over. They want peace, and they would like their hostages back. And the question is, what is the best way to achieve it at this point? It's very, very uncertain exactly what's going to happen next, and this is part of the problem in establishing policy.
And why was there such a large rush at this particular aid distribution site in Rafah?
Well, the Palestinians are desperate, and what little aid is getting in, people want access to. And my understanding is that's largely what caused this, and it makes perfect sense. I think the issue really is, what is the right mix from the Israeli government's perspective about how much aid should be let in, when and how. The problem, of course, is that the leadership in Hamas commandeers this aid, uses it for themselves and their fighters, and it doesn't get to the Palestinian people. This is the biggest problem.
And building on that point, how is the Israeli blockade impacting civilians' access to food and essential supplies?
Well, it's pretty clear it's an extremely short supply. The situation is desperate, it's critical. They're on the verge of famine. This doesn't please anyone, really. I don't even think it pleases Netanyahu. He can't be happy that this is happening. And yet, they find themselves in the position of wanting to strangle the last vestiges of Hamas. The problem is, the Hamas leadership uses their own people as shields. They use them as weapons in the sense that they put them in front of themselves to absorb attacks, or they become collateral damage. And that puts the Israeli government in a very unfortunate position because they want to wipe out the leadership, but they unfortunately end up killing innocent civilians at the same time. But this is really the doing of Hamas.
Speaking of U.S., what role is the U.S. playing in aid operations, and how are these efforts being received locally?
My understanding is that the U.S. is working behind the scenes. As you may understand, there's a sort of a conflictual relationship at the moment between Mr. Trump and Mr. Netanyahu, and it's unclear exactly who's pulling the strings on the part of the U.S. government. But Netanyahu is definitely under pressure here, and it's unclear exactly how this is going to play out. There's too many moving parts and too many unknown unknowns.
And according to you, what needs to change to ensure safe, orderly, and consistent delivery of humanitarian aid to Gaza?
Well, it's pretty clear if Hamas gives up the remaining hostages and if the Israelis are successful in killing the remaining leadership of Hamas, there's hope that this impasse will be resolved. But that seems very unlikely at this point.
We have another guest joining us, Dr. Wael Awad, as a Middle East affairs expert from New Delhi. Thank you for joining us, Doctor. Doctor, why was there such a large rush at this particular aid distribution site in Rafah?
Well, I think the main objective of Israel on this operation is to make sure that there is no question the aid goes to the hands of the UNRWA, which is the UN responsible for distributing the aid for years in Gaza. So they wanted to take it out from the International AIDS Organization. That's one of the objectives. The second objective is to give more humiliation and killing of the Palestinians, that they have been subjected to all kind of act and killing for the last 600 days. And for the last 3 months, they have been fast. They kept the Palestinians in hunger. You can see the amount of rush that people are running to have a piece of bread or a little of the wheat to make little bread, and they can eat and feed their families. So these are all clear indications that the Israelis themselves wanted also to make sure that the Americans are not very involved much on this aid, because they wanted to run Gaza and they wanted to empty Gaza from its people. So therefore, if you look at the arrangement that the Israelis have done, even the American AIDS organization, which is created by Philip Riley, who is running the show right now there, he is an ex-CIA agent who has already been saying that these are not even the proper places where the Israeli gave them to distribute the aid. So therefore, you're expecting 600 convoys of a day, at least, to feed 1.2 million Palestinians who are hungry in that part of Gaza, and yet you are unable to deliver these goods, and you are just talking of a 300,000 meal, and you already created some of the organized criminals to attack and to create that sort of havoc. It's inhuman behavior and absolutely shameful to the UN that they're unable to stop this war and distribute the aid to the needy people of Gaza.
And Doctor, according to you, what role is the U.S. playing in aid operations, and how are these efforts being received locally?
Well, I think the United States, as I said, that they have given this job to Gaza. They have created a new fund, which is a foundation, which is trying to be taking the lead in feeding the Gazan people. And I said he is an ex CIA agent. He's also having all the collaboration of the CIA and the safe research solutions that he has created along with the Gaza humanitarian funds. So they're a foundation. So therefore, these are Americans trying to end this war, but at least Mr. Trump, he's trying to put an end to this war and putting pressure on Netanyahu that should be ending. So they wanted to take some sort of a lead to end the suffering of the Palestinians, at least to the international community, because you can see international opinion have been changing for the last 3 weeks against Israel, that this is not a war against Hamas, it's basically a genocide against the Palestinians. And that is why the pressure is on Netanyahu's government now to end this war and reach to sort of an agreement. Well, that's not happening, because Netanyahu is buying his own time, because he knows the moment he ends the war in Gaza, his political career is ended.
And why did organizers temporarily withdraw? From what we know, that they had to withdraw temporarily for the staffs and for their safety. Was there a threat to their safety or logistical breakdown?
I think the way of distributing the aids and the area which was given by the Israeli Defense Forces, that's what made these people scared for their life, because the amount of people and the huge number of people rushed, hungry people, to get some sort of an aids from these organizations, have made it very difficult. And I think that's what the Israeli wanted, to make sure that they divide Gaza into two parts, and they make the distribution so distant that they will be able to abduct people, and they will be missing and killing and suppressing of the Palestinians. Therefore, the American cannot do much about these things. They immediately ran away, and the Apache came up and started firing at the civilian. It's not only to scare them, but there were people who got injured. So therefore, the Prime Minister of Israel saying that he wanted to give aid to the Palestinians, first he should stop bombing and killing the Palestinians. We have more than 160,000 Palestinians injured and killed for the last 600 days, and mostly children and elderly women. So what kind of human being that you are leading a genocide against the Palestinians who are hungry? And I think the American cannot stay a bystander and watching this much of killing right now, because they wanted to end this war. And I think it's a high time to see an end of this war and make sure this Gaza people does not keep on suffering, who are not dying because of the guns, they are dying because of the famine. I think should be an end to all this. And I think the Israelis themselves putting pressure on Netanyahu that he should reach a sort of a compromise or a truce with the Palestinians and with Hamas to end this war and return the exchanger. Nobody is using a human shield. If you can watch this kind of huge swarm of people running for AIDS, and the moment, and it happened many times, that even the Israeli army bombed them intentionally and killed them. So we don't talk about the human shield. It is a mass deception to continue, and it is a really injustice to speak that people are using human shield. Where is Hamas in this, the whole picture? It's hungry people running for their bread and butter to eat something to survive.
And Doctor, what needs to change to ensure safe, orderly, and consistent delivery of humanitarian aid to Gaza, according to you?
You should bring back the UN agency who have been running the show for years. Gaza has been under occupation for more than 50 years by the Israelis. They have been distributing the aid. Hamas is out of the picture. It is the people who are needing the aid. We are not talking of a military or a militant group. We are talking of people who are dying of hunger. You can see women and elderly people running to the garbage and trying to find food. You can see dead body on the street. They are unable even to bury them. You can see only stray dogs eating dead bodies of a Palestinian who have been killed because of the Israeli shelling. I think it is a high time the UN should play its own role and bring its own agency back into the action in Gaza and end the suffering of the Palestinians.
Thank you so much, Dr. Wael.